Shit. Um, I'm just doing this from my personal archives right now. But I think what it is I was listening to one of the OGs last night. I mean, I'll be periodically listening, and he was talking about solutions. And I think about it a lot, like what would be the solution? And I think really when you're playing a rigged game and the foundation is native energy, earth, land, sovereignty, what have you, everything that was built on top of that came from elsewhere outside of the mind of the native feminine and masculine energy. So it's like everybody's talking about what's the solution, but realistically it's like the only way to find a true solution based on what you intrinsically value is to get out of that motherfucking system, because the system is corrupt and is founded on blood and genocide and all that. So there's always a component of that that echoes and reverberates through the processes of finding capitalistic, economic, in the industrial complex, finding success, which is why we have been increasingly less soulful and increasingly more homogenized and increasingly more. You see who's being rewarded is like assembly line versions of, this nigga it worked in the 90s, so they imitate, emulate, regurgitate, reappropriate, and we're spiraling inwards and inwards and inwards. So for the truest spirits that want to like actually like cohabitate and really find resonance in the community, you kind of gotta like, to the best of your abilities, get out of the programs and processes that are governed by the mint, the government, pretty much. And that sounds like the most dustiest shit in today's society, because we've already created so many archetypes and representations and memes where it's like, we don't want to hear that shit, Raheem, Rashid, whatever, you know what I mean? It turns people off because they acknowledge that as outcasted. Now you living in a box in the woods and you got dusty, you ain't fresh, you ain't this and that. So we've been so married in so many chemical releases from getting those dopamine hits of approval from Uncle Sam's minions or whatever systems, circumstance. You go to school, you fresh because they showed it on TV and everybody got the hit. Now you got to imitate that when it's your turn to enter in the scene. This game theory. You enter the scene, you got to have the shit on. And if you don't have the shit on, man, they going to hit you with something. And everybody else around you feels that. And they go with it because getting whipped, it emulates getting whipped in front of the community. It's a bug breaking thing. And it's like, there's compartments that have been placed in everybody's mind over decades to where it's like, your parents teach you, you better be well dressed. Even if we going through it in home, when you step outside, you better be well put together in this. You got to present yourself to the, you know what I mean? So the solutions is either get down or lay down, almost, only because if we're going with finite divine truth, which is the base level, which is the triple blackness, which is the essence of all creation that has been terraformed into this like gray area or fully drained of its melanin, i.e. Eurocentrism, as far as ideals, as far as conformity, as far as socially acceptable, polite society, rhetorical, anything that has to do with walking outside of your homeostasis in order to procure something has already been so angled and, regimented that, and carefully guarded. And, they've shown us the suffering that comes from stepping outside of that line. Rodney King, Malcolm X, Huey P. Newton, whoever else, Tupac, you know what I mean? When you step outside of those lines, they have the materials and the legalese in order to execute damn near. So the only way to have a solution for those who don't want to play that game is for everybody in that group to find each other. And then you got to brainwash the mind, the third eye. You got to have like, you got to go through all the doctrines and be like, that was that was a fallacy. That's a fallacy. This is a fallacy. Why is this a fallacy? Because it puts you in this vibration, because then it eliminates you from actually having the true balance of masculine and feminine polarities. Because now you're polarizing yourself in order to participate in this institution that is rewarding you for being polarized. And you jump through the hoops and you win the token, you win the prize. And then people's like, hurrah, but you're only getting props from them motherfuckers. The people who's really trying to rock with you and like be down with you, might be outside of the city somewhere. So it's kind of like they got everybody in these, the Dragon Ball spread across the globe, and then there's like 10 people over there, 5 people over there, 15 people over there, 2 people back here, 20 people over, and it's just like each one of them is kind of surrounded by a bunch of muggles, lemmings, whatever. And those are either conformity, people who conformed and then over the course of time became NPC AI, which means they regurgitate masses' rulings, or they were code programs that were built in, like motherfuckers who's behind the counter, or in the library or in the grocery store, who's just like decreeing at such a magnitude that it's like, you know what I mean? And everybody's kind of either eventually going with it to get along or getting out of there. But, the motherfuckers who's just they're keeping the vibration prevalent and dominant in an environment. The sirens are always going off. The billboards are always chastising. The songs are always eliminating the third perspective and polarizing people. Like, you either getting money and you getting pussy, whatever, you got women, or you a broke ass nigga and your intelligence means nothing. And they put those two out there so nobody thinks about the third one, which is, fuck what they talking about. Let's find a balance, you know what I mean? Because it really, only in the polarized nation is it that. And that was something that was once again built on top of the platform of native, where there's the money system didn't exist. So it's like everybody was valuable for the time of just helping each other survive out here and enjoy the day and plan, built up surplus for the future, because we realize the seasons change and these motherfucking animals and how we work with nature. But once they changed all that and put gates around nature and like blocked off everything, is like all you can do to get your jollies is go participate with what they're showing you is you're able to participate with. No more, they eliminate the cafe, the poetry slam, they eliminate the shows, they eliminate this, and then they put the shows behind the line, and it's a firewall. You can only perform if you are a sodomite or something, or you gotta like participate in our rituals in order to get this, opportunity. And they defend it with gunfire, they defend it with chemical warfare, they defend it with smear campaigns, and there's been so many years of this. Shout out to Blue Pill. That's who I was listening to. There's so few people that can articulate at a level that, like, he's an OG. So it's like, but people that I'm looking at from my peers and like coming up, I don't see too many. You know what I mean? So it's like, who do I hang out with? Who do I talk to? Because everybody's kind of like giving in at this point. And they got their little tokens of appreciation from massa, and they just, that's what they use to govern their actions. And I don't, so as far as like solutions to, it really is like a full disavowing, because as long as we're participating in the system that has been built on our destruction, it's always going to be microcosms of that destruction. And that could be looked at as a gym. You could look at that as like, oh, I'm getting fit in the gym because they're trying to destroy me. I'm tearing microfibers in my muscles and I'm getting stronger because I'm synthesizing like solutions of like how to deal with the stress. But it's always gonna be the stress. It's not gonna be like a whole bunch of people can just go to Lake Merritt or go to, downtown Atlanta or go to like, you know what I mean? Go to the town, go to and just be commune and just build a ideology and have land. Like we could just take that moment. There's always gonna be eye in the sky, chemicals in the air, police pulling up like, damn, there's too many niggas right there. We need to send a COINTELPRO. Send somebody in there to cuss, bust off the pistol. You know what I mean? It just is what it is when you're dealing with insecure um Jacobians, whatever it is, people just territorial because once again with the gang stalking shit or the community manipulation is like if you got a bunch of Oompa Loompas playing 5-on-5 and then you know what I mean, like a nigga with some cartoon like abilities or some kind of like extrasensory perception shows up and just got extra handles, they gonna be like, get this motherfucker out of here because they gonna get dunked on. You know what I mean? It just is what it's just the way that the physiology of this shit works. And a lot of these, you can look at like scriptures and all that is like in reverence to us, but then the reverence turns into resentment and disdain. So then they flip the scripts literally, and that's why we're in this backwards reality where it's like every um every zeitgeist shift is to despite us, you know what I mean? And they only allow the caricature of the coon or like the buffoon to get over because they got to show you some affirmative action. But realistically, the higher on the evolutionary scale you are intellectually or physically, the more and more you're under scrutiny of like, you better conform to this frame because we ain't gonna have you in here being suave and debonair and like, healing the people and like taking them out of our clutches because we have energetic contracts on all of these people. Every woman, we've governed her parents have been mind fucked to where they got her on a contract. So that ass is worth 50 mules and 10 acres. And you can't come around here putting all these thoughts in her head to change her into a free thinker. Nigga, you know what I mean? That's what's going on, really. So it's like, if you that one that's like the Neo C or whatever, they're going to try to put you with a model citizen so she could bring your ass down because it's like putting cut on you. It's like you A1, uh, coca leaf, whatever, and then they come and put a vitamin B chick with you, or like, I know I use that reference a lot. But they put somebody that they pre-approve, like, oh, she's, and vice versa. You could do it as like a woman with a dude, and the motherfucker just got the program or the parasite that just keeps them in a vibration. They're gonna drag you down. They might be aesthetically pleasing, but their proclivities and their insight is that limited. Remember the box, to where you only gonna get your ching moments when you acquiesce to a degree, and the community's all at large been programmed with the codes, so it's like they know when the frame is there what buttons to push to accentuate that or keep it um keep it rolling or not rolling, like square it, you know what I mean, or like turn the S to a Z, or like a rigid, just turn this into yeah. Shout out to Dolo, yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like that's where people kind of get defeated or just feeling like the apathy when you realize that there ain't really a way to within the system fully just get to peace. It's gonna always be warfare because this whole system was built on warfare against the native. So that natural childlike essence of just like, oh, share, it's love, you know what I mean? Hey, how you? They want to shut that shit down because it's not. You can't generate dollars off of that for them. Like up the ladder. Like we could share and trade and barter and grow food and crops and have, if there was no such thing as mansions, people wouldn't necessarily be tripping off living in ziggurats or anything like that. But once you start showing people and inventing and like almost like, let me turn up the flood so that shit gets washed out. So then it's only this option now. And they do that so much over the course of time, control chaos, helter skelter, to where now you only can have the solution that they provide for you because that was their intention. It's like, you keep getting with her, well, we're going to keep swooping her. We're going to keep, you know what I mean? Every time you get with that type of archetype, we're going to attack that. And then you can only get with this. You know what I mean? They won't let you get with that. Or they'll give you this and that, but both of them kind of lead back to tax. You getting taxed, which means your time and energy are that much more regimented. So the third parties, the people who's kind of like kicking back or like watching or trying to find a better way, it's kind of like, it's scarce out here. And you can kind of politic or participate in people's, like where I'm at right now is like, I've been outside looking to find my own circumstance. And it's like when I get a place, because it's almost like when I don't participate in the reindeer games, as it were, like I was living in Seattle, I had a place fully furnished. And it was like every time I would come home from work, I'm not working 10-hour days, 12-hour days. I finessed it, I got it figured out. The ancestors looked out for me to where it's like I could afford my rent and I could chill and make music and be there. But then the neighbors, there was always this chick that was sitting downstairs when I would come into the apartments. And she was always on the phone, but it was almost like she was monitoring me. They was waiting to try to get me to be one of those, hey, they wanted me to flirt with her or something. I wasn't feeling her like that. So I was I was going through what I was going through, which I should be allowed to do, be a solo, a silent, strong, silent, whatever. And then over the course of time, it just would get weirder as far as like how much they would be in my business. My packages was getting stolen. I was ordering shit. It wasn't, it was missing. Everybody else's stuff was there, but my stuff was missing. Next thing you know, I leave my phone in there one day after work to just go to 76 to get a black, you dig? But then they break into my spot, and then there's niggas in the stairwell when I go to confront them that's like trying to fight. And I should have whooped them niggas' ass in retrospect. But being in Washington, I was like, all right, I'm out of town. These motherfuckers, these crackers like, neo-Nazi, this and that. They was drunk, ready to chunk. And then it's like, I feel like if I fight, my instinct was just my unit's right here. If I fight them, they live here. I got beef, let's say I kill this motherfucker or like crack his skull. And then it's like, they're looking to persecute the native. So they will sacrifice 3 rooks, 3 pawns to get the king. You know what I mean? And that's the situation I was in. But these are the situations, and I knock on a neighbor's door. Can I use your phone to call 911? I don't have a phone. Like shit like that. It's just like, how do you not have a phone? It's 2023 at the time. But these type of situations, where it's just like life is laughing in your face on some like, well, if you don't get down with us, you ain't got shit. We gonna take everything you got until you get down with us, Take the car to the mechanic. They thrash the engine. You know what I mean? Like just certain things where it's like, all right, this is an orchestrated thing I'm an outlier in the environment. I'm clearly a creative. I'm clearly spiritually aligned. I'm doing my thing, but they're mad at me for having something and not being a bitch ass nigga to get it. So they will sabotage me and try to get me to turn up so they could put me in a predicament where I'm now like Tupac. Cause I heard Blue talk about this with, um, the Tupac situation. They intentionally persecuted him to get him to go to jail. So then he would have to then take the Faustian bargain to get out of jail, which then put him in a more a more condensed paradigm to where he was no longer able to access that radical, they got me trapped mind. And then he was only put around people whose vibration was like in a lower hertz range to where now he's playing 52 pickup all day, every day, which eventually gets frustrating to where he snaps, you know what I mean? And that's how they get you. So it's like you almost got to restrict yourself from being around certain types of people when you're aspiring to inspire, because their terms and conditions are going to put you in a bullshit paradigm regardless. You know what I mean? The best prize, my economy, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And that's just the frames that we're in, because this whole shit economics of, as far as with a greenback, it was built on, they over there on that land. Them niggas is having too much fun. They chilling, you know what I mean? I want that, fuck the niggas, you know what I mean? That belly shit, Hold on. Hey, yo, China. Oh, thanks for the gunpowder, China. You know what I mean? Whatever. Take this. This is your Lord and Savior now. And they're bigging themselves up and trying to like project themselves into the future by writing it in a way that puts them on a pedestal. And the Freudian slip of it is in reverence to the black body, but they put it in, it's like 3 frames, like multiple dimensions to how that shit can be read. You just got to read it the right way. But if they whooping your ass and telling you this, you're going to be hardwired to be like, and that's just what they did to the women and the children. And then they sodomized, emasculate, murdered, and smeared the men. So it's just like now we beefing with each other and we beefing with them. And then everybody, it's just in the foundation. You have to know, that's why they say know thyself. You got to know their story. And we're the mystery, because we can make it up as we go and it becomes real. But if they like whispering in your ear every day and telling you ain't shit, eventually you're going to be doing some shitty things, to get your daily bread. And they waiting for you because they've been watching you since elementary school based on your test scores and how the ladies liked you. And then they'll put you in a paradigm, because there's only a few of you. There's only a few of us. And everybody else has been repopulated around us as a displacement theory, because it's like they got the traditions now. They know the methodologies and the functions and the color coordinations and the dances and the drum patterns, regardless of their level of ability to execute it. They know it because they observed us. So then everything else is built on top of that. That's why AI is the imitation of that, which is like, we're going to learn as much as we can from you, and then we don't need you no more. Nigga, get out of here. And we'll make it illegal to get you out of here, because y'all ain't even tripping on this shit that we're orchestrating around you. You're more so only focused on survival and beating the drum and like, vibing out. But we making it what you can't vibe out now. So it's like there's a whole bunch of systems put in place to destroy or limit the ability for you to access your true gifts and all that. So you got to be able to steal a moment away somewhere. And that's why love and finding a woman is important for somebody like me, because it's like a lot of times on this journey, being in her place was where I found the peace to be able to develop further. But I also had to make sure not to succumb to her idiosyncrasies and parasites and all that. So I have to heal her while I'm there, open her mind, and then develop my methodologies and medicines and all that which is frowned upon today because it's like, oh, it's a broke ass nigga. He ain't this and that. But once again, you're aligning your ideas with the system that is dehumanizing and emasculating and polarizing. So you're not correct in the divine sense. In the sense of the Gregorian, draconian, subterranean, they say mammoth. I just, whereas like cash is king, in God we trust on the back of the dollar. Yeah, you're right because they designed it to be that way. So if you go to a Klan rally, niggas ain't shit. Yeah, you're right in a Klan rally, but if you step outside a Klan rally and it's time to, you know, run 5-on-5 and the Klan versus, the brother man, they getting dogged regardless. It don't matter. So look at basketball as the metaphor for getting the dream, which is your son, into the hoop to manifest. They getting whooped every time, but if they control the referees and put undercover niggas on your team that's gonna shave points, then yeah, it's gonna look bad. You might get monstered, if they figure out ways to like destiny swap and do all this shit, trailer to etc. and just put people into places like the Indiana Jones thing is like we want the amulet, the goblet. So we got to put this sack of dirt right here just to outweigh it. And then we could take it and then examine it and get all the chemical makeup components of like what makes gold. And then we can maybe do artificial gold or something. But yeah, so I'll just be thinking about that. Like the solution to me, the only solution is to get out of the motherfucking arena that they're playing in. So sometimes you could do that mentally. Some people disassociate mentally to where it's like it is what it is, and you can almost find flow in that. Whereas like I'm not too heavily influenced by the Mammetian rulings or the maritime laws or whatever. Like I'm existing in the grooves, which is what the the serpentine energy do. When you're too rigid, then you get edges, knocked off of you when you're trying to move through a densely gridded arena. But if you can kind of flow through that shit, but getting a bunch of people to be able to flow in synchronicity is the part, because that's when they send the niggas in there with the shady mind that's like whispering, dissension, or they take a bunch of the women and be like, all right, well, we got Dale and I don't want to say no names, but you know what I mean. The motherfuckers is the Jacobites, the Yakub's inventions. Just make them rich as fuck because they print the money, and then just make it seem like it's so luxurious to be on that side. And then, like in the Matrix cipher, niggas want the steak, bitches want the steak. Women, succumb to the flesh because it's powerful. And if I keep putting shit in the air that's making it fucked up, you gonna want shelter. So, it's so many layers to it that it's like you gotta basically get some land, start a new school, and be able to recalibrate people's minds over generations. Which means, you need a divine council and a repopulation of values. But Jordans is always gonna be Jordans. Chevys is always gonna be Chevys. Cable is always gonna be cable. You can make music, but niggas are gonna try to block you from getting your music to the masses because that's the healing component. That's the water. That's the emotion. So they're gonna taint that. So, and it's just one of them things where I don't know if niggas want it that bad, because it takes a full disavowing of what has been so ingrained in our system from inception, to the point to where you're born, they put some inoculation in you, which almost like puts you in a vibratory scale. And I can speak from experience from having a rebirth at 27, 26, when I was vibing at a frequency, a lot of meditations and all that. And then they put the Thorazine in my body. And then it put me in a lower vibratory scale to where I could only access selling dope at the after hours spot. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't until, because I was schizophrenic symptoms and all that. I had muscle memory from doing music, so I could still go and flow, but I didn't have the access to the full what I had. I was ascending at that point to where it's like my entendres, and I use this as an example. My writing entendres, I was writing like 3-4 dimensional bars where it's like everything was connected and it was opening up and it would lead to the punchline or the finish line, which was like epiphany. And everybody was responding. And then it was like they gave me the Thorazine and it was like put me in jail 48 hours. Now I'm reborn in there with, the supposedly dregs of society, whatever, but just that whole feeling of like you can't sleep, you on cement, it's cold as fuck. So it put me back in the fight or flight mode, and my aura was so ripped apart. And imagine a baby coming from the cosmos into this realm, and then when you have all the isms and wisdom that you need, and they put some shit in your body, and then it's just like you know what I mean? Trauma immediately. So then that reverberates through your whole life. So this is, these motherfuckers are like demon empowered, and they do got all the signs and sigils in place to where it's just like triggering you. So you got to be so methodical on an individual basis with how you develop your techniques of just loving yourself, and then you got to find one person at a time and try to like hold on to them and like pull the bullshit out of them and hope that they can then leave you and maintain that balance when they go back to their communities, because their communities have already appraised them as a energy source. Remember that. So we good right now, but then when you go back to where you going, are you the same tomorrow? Because they're going to try to put the program back on you, and you don't know what I know. You just heard what I told you. So it's like, you got to be able to put everybody in a place to where the 7-year cycle of their DNA can recode. Because it takes like 7 years for the cells to be brand new. You know what I mean? So you got to put everybody in a place to where they can breathe, eat good food, have good conversations, and not feel like paranoid about somebody coming to get them to where they got to conform or mask or turn to a dark psychology, for lack of a better term. And, that's a lot of work when the bills is due and all that shit's going on. So I think it starts with couples. It starts with 1-2 people at a time pairing up and just like staying with each other and working on each other. And then if they have a child, they have to care for the child outside of the institutions, because as soon as you send the motherfuckers to school, if you've seen weapons, they are putting demons in the child. And the child's going to come back and then cause a rift between y'all just through osmosis. You know what I mean? Because it's like one of you cares more about this nigga's homework than the other one. And then it just, So it usually starts a lot of times when the child is born, because they put a quantity on the child. It's like, that nigga right there is worth 50 years in the pen, which is $100,000 a year, which is this amount of cheap labor, or this motherfucker's she's worth 70 dicks, you know what I mean? Or like, she's worth a kidney and, this amount of loose energy, or like, and it's just based on the strength. They're looking at like how much suffering can they deal with that they disassociate. It's like, these are high level, and I hate to say high level because it's really just degradation, but it's like they've studied this so much, the nuance of the chemistry of the brain, the heart, the stomach, the kidneys, the pancreas, the gallbladder, like, and that's the Bible and all these texts are kind of like busting it down on like the processes of rising from the bowels to the crown. and how to stop it. What foods to stop it? You know, how do you get somebody stuck in the gut? How do you get somebody's heart closed? How do you get somebody's throat chakra closed? You know what I mean? Sock that nigga when he's young, and then he will be afraid to speak up. You know, these type of moments, like put all these complex carbs in the food and they'll be overweight and they'll always be hiding, you know what I mean? Or punish them for telling the truth. They'll never tell the truth, and then they'll always be buried amongst lies. These are like systematic moments that they trained into us. So, you know, the best and brightest minds and the most open hearts are like mostly in the shadows because they're not accepted in their own communities, because their communities is they live. You know, 90% of motherfuckers have already succumbed. Heavy indoctrination is the thing, you know. People want to belong to something, so they give you something to belong to immediately and reward you handsomely. And then it just over the course of time, you don't even need to do it no more. It's just you know, that whole thing with the monkeys where it's like, if you climb the ladder, everybody else gets shocked. So nigga, before you climb the ladder, they gonna beat your ass. Pretty much, you know? Like, you can't even be good at stuff anymore because people resent you for it. So they'll chastise you for even trying to be good. Like good, like talented, like gifted, like skilled, like excelling, like wanting to be better. So look at NFTs and shit. It's like, nigga, fuck all that stupid shit. We making money off of pictures of monkeys. Stuff like that changes the zeitgeist over the course of time to where it's like, it's meta to actually not care and do, you know, shoddy work and make that the standard, which can be inclusive, but at the same time, great communities and societies promote and celebrate excellence in the way of like true excellence, you know, which is like demanding more of yourself, not destroying everybody else that's you secretly believe is better than you, so you can be the supreme, you know, like shit like that is how we got here. So this is my perspective on that. And there's so many offshoots that we could get into, but for now, I'm gonna just say that. Shout out to the OGs and the elders and the thought leaders that's doing it. A lot of times I'll be, you know, being shadow banned, I'll be feeling like I gotta find a proper platform to be able to speak on stuff like this, because I'm getting attacked just for even having this mind and getting 7 views. And they've been attacking since I started rapping. Because obviously they know what it could have become. So they was empowering niggas across the street to make sure that I was looking like a buster compared to a nigga with 70 cars and shit. Even if what I was gonna say could help everybody's psyche, you know what I mean? It's like people go with what's trending, and it's all good. I don't blame them, you know. My spirit is of a certain wisdom age and life experience and growing up fast, young, and you know, so it is what it is. I'm just making my gobstoppers, and when the time comes, it'll be right on time. In the meantime, though, you dig?